Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about discovering what's right in front of you. So let's get started. And, oh dear, lost the mouse cursor. If you like what you hear tonight, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message. So first off, I hope everyone had an excellent U.S. Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend. And we all took time to stop and remember all those people who have lost their lives in an effort to help keep our country safe. We can never bring them back and never replace what was lost, but we should never forget what Memorial Day is all about. So tonight will be a discussion on searching for what turns out to be right in front of you. As I've mentioned before, my career by training is as an engineer. So true to the stereotype, I love to research things and often spend quite a bit of time searching for the optimal solution for any given problem. Mind you, it's quite irrelevant if the search to save time takes longer than the time saved. It's just kind of an engineering sort of thing. But the corollary to that is I also tend to get focused on a solution and sometimes I'll miss alternatives right in front of me. That's partially just a bad habit, but it's also partially from training since I'm often called upon to defend my professional choices. So I have to be pretty confident in them. And so this is known in science. It's kind of a bias towards your own ideas and you try and avoid it, but sometimes it kind of sneaks in anyway. Happily, as I've become kind of more experienced in life, in other words, as I've gotten older, I'm often a little more aware of the time invested to complete my search for perfection, and so more likely to settle for expedient, particularly when time is of the essence, like when something has to be done before sunset. So, as I continue to work on my upcoming course, Your Future Transformed, I was struggling to find an editing tool that worked in the same way that my kind of scattered sort of mind does. I tend to do a lot of things all at once. And so I needed something that I could really throw down thoughts and move back and forth between sections and such really easily, but still keep a clear high level view of things. I mean, I like simplicity, but not really Spartan. And there are many super focused tools for book and course creation. There's like one called Scrivener that people just rave about, hated it. But that's me. And research tools of all flavors like Obsidian and Notion, and a great tool from some Ukraine developers named xtiles.app, xtiles.app. But I kind of felt like Goldilocks, right? They all seemed either to be great at some things, but missing critical features, or had all the features in a layout that only a developer could love. And I was getting pretty frustrated. And I had the general course layout done in a few different tools, but every time I found it was very difficult to work with and really create content with. And then I remember that Microsoft Word, good old Microsoft Word, has an outline mode where you can condense body text and move whole sections using drag and drop via the overview pane. In other words, I can have a whole paragraph or a whole chapter, just grab it and move it somewhere else. And it has nested levels of that you can work in, including the material you're actually writing, section headings, all the things that I was looking to do. And it has rich formatting, which I really like, so I can highlight text to help me remember important points. Oh, and you can embed pictures, supports linking. Actually, I know it really well, and it does everything I want it to do. So I redid the course outline in under an hour in Word and have been adding content since. But it kind of made me laugh. How could I miss such an obvious solution right in front of me? So the next example is this past weekend, on the holiday weekend, I spent most of it helping to move, actually I was doing it by myself, move a statue from a closed parish, to churches that merged. And we've been moving all the religious and useful items either to my own church or donating them to churches in the US, Poland, Central America, and elsewhere. So it was a real adventure, like I said, since I was working alone. And the statue combined weighs about 650 pounds. It's in two pieces, a base and the statue itself. And I don't weigh 650. So there were lots of learning experiences there and many different things, but it was fun on a lot of different levels. But it was taking forever to load the base of the statue onto my pickup truck by just kind of pushing it up a ramp. Because remember, actually that piece weighed about 350 pounds. So finally, it started off, I had this very good picture in my mind how it was going to work. I had this nice, neat, simple idea of how I was just going to roll it up the ramp, not just pushing it, but I had some things that was going to be very simple. And after almost 2 hours of work, that bad boy was still sitting firmly on the ground. So I'm thinking, what's going on? So I found a jury rig to block and tackle. and then moved it up into the truck in about 10 minutes. But then later on, I realized that fairly recently, I'd moved a whole piano into that same truck up those same ramps and used a strap and a come along. So I just hooked it up inside the truck, ratcheted it on up, and there I was. So why didn't I do that this time? The answer to both those questions are nearly the same and very much related. I had a preconceived notion in the first case of what Microsoft Word was good for. Everyone said how bad it was for things like writing a book or a course, and how all these other tools are better. So in my mind, I had eliminated it based upon common knowledge and wasted quite a bit of time looking at alternatives that weren't a good match for what I wanted to do. I inadvertently let other people's experiences guide my thinking and didn't look at what was the best match for my needs. Similarly, for the statue base, I already knew the best way to do what I wanted to and never thought about how I had approached a similar problem in the past. In my defense, physically, the problems seem very different. Concrete's heavy, very heavy, and so the statue base is physically fairly small, while a piano is physically fairly large, but in reality, most of it's air. However, the statue base and the piano weigh close to the same, probably within about 50 pounds of each other. But I had focused on the wrong aspect of the problem, the size, and ignored the most significant piece, the weight. Again, similarly, in this case, I let my own experience guide me down the wrong path by focusing on the wrong aspects, and the answer was right in front of me, and I dismissed it. So you should see where this is going by now, right? How often in our own lives do we let other people's preferences or even our own biases lead us astray? I can't tell you how many program reviews I've read that started off with some form of, you want a book editor and you certainly don't want to use Microsoft Word. And so subliminally, I just got the program that Word was no good for that, even though I've used it for a very long time for very long submissions. Equally fascinating was when I tricked myself into using an ineffective loading solution, even though I'd used it before, by reframing the problem correctly. Now think about in our lives, how many messages we see every day about hundreds and thousands of topics. Think about how many things are common knowledge that turned out to be completely wrong. Whether it's in the health fields, in the sciences, in politics, the lists are huge, but in most cases, there were times when if you didn't agree with that common thought, you were just considered a fool. Now think about all the self-talk you do to yourself and the types of things you say. In my example, it was just me convincing myself that something that had worked before wouldn't work again because there was something different that, it turned out, was completely irrelevant to the problem. Think about the negative self-talk you do where you criticize yourself for things that don't matter. I can't speak in public because I don't have a degree. I can't learn math because I'm a woman. I can't get that job because I grew up poor. If you're saying those sorts of things, you likely already have the solution, but you're focusing on the wrong aspects and ignoring all the knowledge and confidence that you have inside you. So here we are again, back to our beliefs and our belief system. Sometimes it's obvious, like a political ad, but many times they can be very subtle, such as terms used to describe a situation, even if the situation is unrelated to the discussion at hand. Still, even if it's unrelated, it influences how you think about it and also how you can stifle your own willingness to think about other options. Because in the back of your head, there's this little voice going, everyone else is talking about it this way. I don't want to try and talk about it this way because now I'm going against the common thought. So I hope you found it interesting that while many times we're strongly influenced by external sources, we can even influence and limit ourselves by our own thoughts and beliefs. So I would encourage you to always try and think of different points of view, even ones that you don't think you'll agree with. It will not only build knowledge, but you may also come up with solutions that you thought were impossible, like being the poor child who grew up to become a public speaker in math, like Mary Everest Boole. If you do anything with computers or logic, it's George Boole's wife, actually. But she didn't become a mathematician because she married a mathematician. They got married because they met studying mathematics. So Mary Everest Boole, she was not allowed to teach a university because she was a woman and only men are good enough to teach at universities. But she still went on to write numerous teaching texts for children on mathematics and had many mathematical theorems recognized in other advanced works. However, since she could only get a job as a librarian at the Queen's College of London, she worked on the side tutoring the college students at all level in their mathematical studies through that same school that wouldn't allow her in. Or like Benjamin Banneker, born 1731. I didn't pronounce his name well, Banneker, Banneker. Born in 1731 as the completely uneducated son of a free woman and former slave, who 2 centuries before Einstein started to work on the theory of relativity and also debated President Jefferson in letters related to slavery and other things of that nature. Plus, he's also the one who surveyed Washington, D.C., the entire territory, was an astronomer, wrote an almanac, and many, many other talents. I think you should realize the only thing holding us back is ourselves. Think freely and confidently and be amazed at what you can do. And if it all seems too hard, then think about it from another point of view. That's it for the evening. Thank you very much for stopping by. And of course, please remember the war in Ukraine and the people in Ukraine. UKR7.com, the website where you can make a donation. Lots of links up there. World Central Kitchen is up there. They do work throughout the world in very humanitarian way. They bring food to people in need. So UKR7.com, World Central Kitchen is WCK.org. The link is also on that site. Remember, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. So if you can and you're able, please check it out at UKR7.com or help people in some way, no matter how you can. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.